People glared at him like they really didn't like him, and some folks didn't even notice him at all. He took a big breath, gazed up at the sky, and asked any higher power around to give him a hand. When he looked back down, he saw a guy giving him a super intense, judgmental look. All of a sudden, he realized tears were coming out of his eyes. Feeling ashamed, he turned away, not knowing that someone had heard him crying. Life was really tough for 16-year-old Chauncey Jones. He lived with his mom in a rented apartment in one of the poorest parts of Memphis, Tennessee. Chauncey didn't have much because his family didn't have a lot of money. Every day was a struggle for him, and today was no different. He remembered how he used to wait for an hour at the bus stop after school. He would then take the bus to a grocery store that was fancier than the one in his neighborhood, hoping to earn some money to buy food for himself and his mom. Chauncey felt defeated and embarrassed when he thought about this. Chauncey's mom had been sick for a long time, and she couldn't work anymore. All the money she got from disability went to pay the rent, and things were really tough. Chauncey loved his mom a lot, and he was really worried about her. It felt like a heavy weight on his chest, knowing that his mom was struggling so much. Chauncey really wanted to help his mom, but they didn't have any money, and there was no one they could turn to for help. His dad was not around, so it was up to Chauncey to take care of his mom. It felt like a heavy responsibility on his young shoulders. One day, around 4 p.m., Chauncey got off the bus and went to Kroger, the grocery store. He was prepared to do what he always did, which was to ask strangers if he could help them carry their groceries to their cars in exchange for some donuts. He tried to be polite and well-mannered, but he knew he didn't look great. His clothes were old and torn, and essentially, he was asking strangers for food. Some people thought he was begging for money, while others saw it as him providing a service. But there was someone who saw it differently. Chauncey wasn't begging, he just needed food, and he wanted to work for it. However, not everyone saw it that way. Some people avoided him or acted like he wasn't even there. It hurt his stomach and made him lose some of his hope. But this was just the beginning, and Chauncey was getting tired. Chauncey was a really good student, always getting straight A's, but school demanded a lot of his energy. This constant hunger made it even harder. He went from person to person, smiling despite feeling tired and hungry. But as he realized his hour was almost up, his smile disappeared and tears welled up in his eyes. Then something unexpected happened. He was standing at the checkout inside, looking out the window at Jones. He had been watching him for a while now. Jones hung his head in despair, then looked up to the sky, praying to whatever God was listening to give him strength. That's when he felt someone was watching him. He turned, and his eyes met his. He looked proud, tall, and handsome. He looked like someone who would shop at Kroger or even Whole Foods. For a second, Jones wondered why he was staring at him. He wondered what he saw, someone very different from the people in his circle, that's for sure. Suddenly, Jones realized that the man was crying. The man continued to stare. Embarrassed by his emotions, Jones quickly turned and wiped his tears. He had 10 minutes left to get some food before the bus arrived, so he took a deep breath and tried one last time. He asked a few people without luck, but then he saw another man standing alone, organizing his bags in his shopping cart to move them to his car. Jones made his move. He had his back to Jones as Jones asked him if he'd accept help getting his bags to his car in exchange for some donuts. The man turned around, and Jones took a step back. It was the man who was staring at him through the window earlier. Jones felt a sudden wave of shame. He braced himself for the look of disgust he felt was sure to follow. But what happened next would change Jones's life forever. Matt White often shopped at the Kroger store in what was considered an upper-class part of a poor area of Memphis. White usually shopped around this time of the week, and this wasn't the first time he noticed Jones walking around offering help. In fact, he noticed Jones twice before, but he never approached him until now. He looked ashamed, hungry, and broken, White later recalled. White immediately felt a tug at his heartstrings and agreed to get the boy some donuts. However, while White got to know Jones, he was determined to do something more for him. Jones had no idea that this short encounter would be the start of a life-changing story. It broke White's heart to see the look of shame and defeat on Jones's face as he made such a simple request. As he looked at him from the window, he had already decided that it was his mission to help Jones. Jones was overjoyed by his help. He expressed his thanks for buying him donuts and made his way towards the bus. But White wasn't done with him yet. "I just met the most inspiring person ever," White wrote in a now viral post. His name is Chauncey Jones. He's a 16-year-old from Memphis. He approached me while I was shopping for produce, asking if he could help me carry my grocery bags to my car in exchange for buying him a pack of glazed donuts. This kid looked like he had been turned down 100 times. He looked ashamed, hungry, and broken. In my heart, I screamed aloud, "Yes," but to him, I just chuckled and said, "Yeah, dude, we'll get you some donuts." Jones had told White that he and his mother had no food in the house. It was then that White decided to take him on a shopping spree. "We got cereal and chips and frozen veggies, pizzas, Cheetos, melons, pasta, peanut butter, milk, soap, toothbrushes, just a little bit of everything." All the while we talked, and he told me he makes straight A's in school and is trying to get a job to help his mom pay rent. This kid is amazing. The more he learned about Jones, the more he couldn't let him go. Chauncey kept calling himself poor, but he told me that one day he was going to be wealthy and own his businesses so that he could help other people in his neighborhood buy groceries like me. I was in awe. White wrote, when Jones told White that he needed to get to the bus stop, White surprised him by offering to drive him home himself to deliver the groceries. The sight that met him, however, broke his heart. Being poor, as we all know, doesn't necessarily mean you have nothing. Very often than not, it means you have very little and struggle to get from day to day. White had heard that Jones and his mother were poor, but he was in for a surprise when he finally arrived at the house. What White saw absolutely crushed him. Nothing prepared him for what he found. "I gave him a ride home so that he didn't have to take the bus, and when we got to his house, I was truly humbled," he wrote. He wasn't kidding. He and his mom had nothing. They didn't even have beds or furniture. They were sleeping on pads made out of sleeping bags. They had 2 lamps and nothing in their fridge. Nothing. That was the moment when White realized that the boy and his mother were not only unsure of a full belly before bed, but they were so poor that they could barely call what they had a bed at all. This boy and his mother were in greater need than White ever imagined. White was particularly taken aback by Jones' mother, Barbara, who was so sweet but very fragile. She has a condition that makes it difficult for her to walk, and she shakes. The love the boy and his mother feel for one another was obvious. White felt like there had to be something more that he could do. While he had already done so much, the food and supplies would help them for a couple of weeks. The singer-songwriter still wanted to do more. As we unpacked the food into their kitchen, you could see the hope coming back in Chauncey's eyes. He knew he wasn't going to be hungry. White said, "He looked like a kid again." As I was leaving, I gave him a hug and told him how much God loved him and that he was going to grow up to be an incredible man. I'll never forget that hug. It meant more to me than any possession I have. Our God is an awesome God, and we can never be thankful enough for the blessings we have. But that wasn't the end. I found out that I've been living like this for years, getting by on Barbara's disability checks, White said, and I just knew I had to do something. Chauncey hadn't had new clothes in 3 years. I'm not wealthy, but I live a comfortable life. I saw how he was living, and it touched my heart. So he took to his Facebook page to share the story to see if anyone else could help out. He hoped to get enough donations to buy Jones a lawnmower and earn some summer cash before returning to high school. The post quickly became a sensation, with strangers offering jobs, food, clothes, dental care, and furniture. It was shared over 14,000 times with 3,500 comments. Overwhelmed, White started a GoFundMe to get them a new home and fund Jones' college education. What happened next exceeded expectations. White hoped people would open their hearts to help. The GoFundMe raised over $340,000 for Jones and his mom, who had faced health issues after raising 7 adopted children. Barbara, the mom, said, "Chauncey had been taking care of me. He's a good boy." Their lives were about to change. This gave rise to the Chauncey's Chance movement, where every dollar donated was secured in a trust to provide a stable future for decades. In every way possible, God has provided. Now that Jones and his mom have a fresh start, White wants to inspire others to seek out people like Chauncey, find them, and hear their stories. White said, "I strive to fulfill God's heart, and God cares deeply for those without fathers and those in need." White emphasizes that the focus isn't on him or what he did because he feels he didn't do much. He simply shared a story online, but the Memphis community rallied behind Chauncey's family and gave them a platform. John chimed in, saying, "He's the kindest person I've ever met. Nobody cared more than he did. He's like family." Barbara added, "He's a permanent part of our lives now. He's family." White mentioned how rare it is to have the chance to make such a big impact on someone's life and hopes that people will pay it forward. Reflecting on his own life, White recalled the generosity, time, money, and encouragement he received from others, and it moved him to tears. He expressed gratitude for the interconnected lives we all share and thanked everyone for caring about Chauncey. White believes that every day presents an opportunity to make a difference if we're willing to seize it.